Ambassador Richard Jenkins straightened his tie for the 14th time in as many minutes. First contact with the Galactic Council was going better than expected, but he couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was one awkward handshake away from interstellar humiliation. "Ambassador, your species continues to fascinate us," said Zorvix, the Council's chief diplomat. Zorvix resembled a 6-foot-tall praying mantis with iridescent blue exoskeleton and 4 eyes that blinked in an unsettling sequence. "The way you've approached first contact with such measured caution and thoughtful dialogue is quite refreshing." Jenkins offered a practiced smile. "On behalf of Earth, we're simply grateful for the opportunity to join the galactic community." The truth was that humanity had been on its absolute best behavior since detecting the alien signals 3 years ago. Earth's governments had miraculously set aside their differences, presenting a unified, peaceful front to the stars. Military posturing? Hidden away. Historical conflicts? Downplayed. Weaponry? Conveniently not mentioned in the information packets. "Your species shows remarkable restraint," continued Zorvix, mandibles clicking in what Jenkins had learned was approval. "Most emerging civilizations arrive with, shall we say, more aggressive undertones." Jenkins nodded diplomatically. The council chamber, a massive crystalline dome aboard the alien delegation's ship, currently orbiting Earth-housed representatives from 12 different species. Some floated in tanks, others hovered on anti-gravity disks, but all seemed to regard humans with a mixture of curiosity and what Jenkins was starting to recognize as admiration. "We've reviewed your cultural information packets," chimed in Council Leader Pelnak, a gelatinous being who communicated through a series of colored pulses. "No territorial expansion policies, no conquest directives. Your entertainment shows remarkable focus on cooperation and peaceful resolution." Jenkins silently thanked the cultural attaché who had carefully curated those packets, selecting only the most diplomatic Star Trek episodes and conspicuously omitting anything featuring xenomorphs, predators, or Independence Day. "The Council has voted unanimously," Zorvix announced. "Earth will be granted provisional membership status, with full integration protocols to begin immediately." A wave of relieved exhales rippled through the human delegation. 6 months of negotiations, culminating in success. "There is just one formality," added Zorvix. "As with all new member species, we propose a cultural exchange initiative. We will assign a research team to study your media archives more comprehensively to better understand your societal values." Of course, Jenkins agreed readily. "We have nothing to hide." The human delegation exchanged pleased glances. First contact had gone perfectly. Earth was going to join the stars, and all it had taken was presenting their very best side to the universe. What could possibly go wrong with a little more cultural exchange? The Research Specialist Klib was not what humans expected from an alien scientist. With a body resembling a cross between a panda and a sloth, sporting 6 limbs and perpetually wide eyes, the Klib moved with surprising speed through the United Nations Media Archive in Geneva. "Fascinating organizational system," Klib noted, voice translator converting their chirps into English. "Chronological, medium-specific, and topic sorted simultaneously. Very efficient." Dr. Eleanor Vega, the human assigned to assist Klib, tried to keep pace. "We've prepared a selection of materials that showcase humanity's achievements in the arts, sciences and—" "Oh no," Klib interrupted cheerfully. "Council protocols are very specific. The cultural assessment must be random sampling to prevent curated bias. I'll be selecting materials myself." Dr. Vega's smile faltered. "Of course, but perhaps I could guide you toward content that best represents." "That would defeat the purpose," Klib chirped, extending a limb to tap at a database terminal. "Random sampling." For 3 days, Klib moved through the archives like a tornado, pulling historical documentaries, nature films, news broadcasts, and entertainment media without any discernible pattern. Dr. Vega sent increasingly concerned updates to Ambassador Jenkins, who was busy with formal integration protocols. On the 4th day, Klib emerged from the archives, clutching a data crystal with evident excitement. "I found the perfect selection for the Council's gala tonight," they announced. Dr. Vega perked up. What did you select? Shakespeare? Perhaps the International Space Station documentary? Better, Klib replied. Something called Predators of the Serengeti, Nature's Perfect Killers. The description indicates it showcases a fundamental aspect of your planet's ecosystem. The color drained from Vega's face. Oh, that's perhaps not the best choice for a diplomatic event. Nonsense, chirped Klib. It's narrated by someone named David Attenborough. According to your cultural metrics, he's one of your most respected knowledge sharers. And the production values are excellent 4,000 ultra-high definition with aerial drone footage. The Council will be most impressed by your documentation technology. Yes, but the content is authentic, Klib interjected firmly. Just what we need to understand your world. Dr. Vega reached for her communicator. Ambassador Jenkins needed to know immediately that their carefully crafted image of peaceful humanity was about to be shredded by footage of lions dismembering zebras in stunning 4000 resolution. Additionally, Klib continued, oblivious to Vega's distress, I've selected supplementary materials about something called World War II and a series on extreme sports injuries. Your species documents everything so thoroughly. The diplomatic gala aboard the Council ship was going splendidly until the lights dimmed. Ambassador Jenkins, still unaware of the impending disaster despite Vega's 17 increasingly frantic messages, was enjoying a pleasant conversation with Zorvix about Earth's oceans. And you say these coral reefs house 25% of all your marine life? Remarkable biodiversity, Zorvix was saying when the massive view screen lit up. David Attenborough's soothing voice filled the chamber. The Serengeti Plain, one of Earth's most spectacular wilderness areas and home to some of our planet's most efficient predators. Jenkins froze mid-sip of his champagne. The screen showed a sweeping aerial shot of golden savanna before cutting to a pride of lions stalking through tall grass. Dozens of alien dignitaries leaned forward, intrigued by these unfamiliar Earth creatures. The lioness moves with practiced stealth, Attenborough narrated as the camera zoomed in on the predator's focused eyes. Her family depends on her hunting prowess. Several council members made appreciative noises at the cinematography. Jenkins desperately scanned the room for the exit. There, Attenborough continued as the camera panned to show a herd of zebras grazing peacefully. A target. A young zebra has strayed from the protection of the herd. The music tensed. The lioness crouched lower. Stealth gives way to explosive power. What followed was 90 seconds of nature at its most brutal: the chase, the takedown, the struggle, and finally the feeding, all captured in loving, but a blood-spattering detail by multiple camera angles. A translucent alien in the front row fainted, collapsing into a puddle. From across the room, a horrified Klib met Jenkins' eyes. They filmed this for entertainment, gasped an octopus-like diplomat, skin flashing alarmed patterns of orange and red. Observed the precision with which the pride tears the flesh. Attenborough's calm voice continued over footage that was causing diplomatic incidents by the second. Turn it off. Jenkins hissed to a nearby human technician who was frantically pressing buttons on a control panel. Too late. The documentary cut to a cheetah running down a gazelle in slow motion. The narrator enthusiastically describing the perfectly evolved killing machine while the camera lingered on the moment of impact. Zorvix's exoskeleton had turned a pale blue. Ambassador Jenkins, they said quietly, your species produced this content? It's just nature documentation, Jenkins explained weakly. Educational material about Earth's ecosystem. You record death for education? Asked another alien, antennae quivering in distress. The documentary continued relentlessly, moving to crocodiles ambushing wildebeests at a river crossing. And you watch this? Voluntarily. Zorvix's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign Jenkins now recognized as extreme agitation. Some find it interesting, Jenkins admitted, watching as 3 more council members excused themselves. Interesting, repeated Zorvix flatly as the screen showed a crocodile performing a death roll with its prey. Humans find violent death interesting. The emergency shutoff finally activated. plunging the screen into darkness, but the damage was done. The diplomatic chamber had descended into chaos, with aliens huddled in concerned groups, casting suspicious glances at the human delegation. "I think," said Zorvix carefully, "we need to re-evaluate some of our initial assumptions about humanity." "So you're telling me," said Council Leader Pelnak, colored pulses flashing what Jenkins now recognized as the alien equivalent of disbelief, "that humans regularly document predation, create entertainment from it, and show it to your young?" The emergency meeting had been convened immediately following what was already being called the Serengeti incident. Jenkins sat beside Communications Officer Tina Rodriguez, both trying desperately to salvage humanity's reputation. "It's not entertainment in the way you're thinking," Rodriguez explained. "It's educational. We document natural processes to understand our world." "But the narration," chirped Klib, who had been formally reprimanded but allowed to attend. "It described the cheetah as elegant while it was killing another creature." "We appreciate the balance of nature," Jenkins attempted. "Predators are necessary for healthy ecosystems, and you find this necessary death worthy of artistic cinematography?" asked a council member Jenkins hadn't met yet. The slow-motion blood spray was filmed from 3 angles. Rodriguez tried another approach. "Every species on our planet exists within a food web. We document all aspects of—" "And what of the other material?" interrupted Zorvix. "Our research has discovered extensive documentation of your own species' conflicts. These world wars, then. You filmed those too?" Jenkins winced. "Historical documentation serves a different purpose. We record our mistakes to learn from them." "Yet you've had multiple wars," Zorvix countered. "The learning appears ineffective." The council chamber had transformed overnight. Where once there had been friendly curiosity, now Jenkins sensed fear, suspicion, and something new, a wary respect. "We should also discuss," continued Pelnak, pulses now a concerning shade of crimson, "these extreme sports where humans deliberately risk injury for entertainment." Rodriguez sighed. "Look, humans sometimes enjoy controlled risk. It's not the same as—" "You jump off cliffs with fabric wings," stated Klib flatly. "And for fun." "For fun. That's not representative of all," Jenkins began. "You intentionally slide down frozen mountains on narrow boards," added another council member. "Your bones break, and you create compilation videos of the worst injuries. That's just a small percentage of—" "You have a sport," interrupted Zorvix, "where the explicit goal is to render your opponent unconscious through repeated blows to the head." The room fell silent. "Perhaps," Jenkins said carefully, "humans have a different relationship with physical risk and natural processes than your species do." "Perhaps," agreed Zorvix, mandibles clicking slowly. "Humans are the most terrifying species we've ever encountered." 3 days after the documentary disaster, Jenkins was summoned to Zorvix's private chamber. The atmosphere aboard the council ship had changed dramatically. Human delegates reported being given wider berths in corridors. The conversations stopped when they entered rooms. "Ambassador," Zorvix greeted him. "Please sit." Jenkins took the offered seat, noticing that the room's lighting had been adjusted to human preferences, perhaps the only concession made since the incident. "The council has been in emergency session." Zorvix began without preamble, discussing humanity's status. "I hope we've clarified the documentary misunderstanding," Jenkins said cautiously. "Clarified? No, contextualized. Perhaps." Zorvix's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "I've been conducting additional research on humanity. What I've found is illuminating." Zorvix activated a holographic display showing various human activities, marathons, chess tournaments, space missions, surgical procedures. "Your species evolved as persistence hunters," stated Zorvix. "You chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion, a method so horrifying that only one other known species employs it." "That was prehistoric humans," Jenkins clarified. "We've evolved socially since." "Your endurance is unmatched in the council species," Zorvix continued. "You can regulate body temperature through controlled water secretion. You can replace almost any lost body part with technology. Your pain tolerance is off our measurement scales. Too high. Anken. Jenkins remained silent as Zorvix displayed more images. Firefighters entering burning buildings, divers exploring ocean depths, astronauts conducting spacewalks. Most revealing, Zorvix said, is what we initially misinterpreted as pacifism. Humans aren't peaceful by nature. You're apex predators who choose restraint. The hologram showed soldiers distributing aid packages, doctors performing surgery, teachers working with children. Your capacity for violence makes your capacity for compassion all the more remarkable, Zorvix concluded. You could conquer and destroy it in your evolutionary programming, but you choose cooperation. Not from weakness, but from strength. Jenkins carefully considered his response. We've made many mistakes throughout our history. We're still learning. Yes, agreed Zorvix. Learning predators, perhaps the most dangerous kind. The hologram shifted to show the Earth from orbit. Your planet is unique in our experience, Zorvix continued. Most developed worlds have one or two apex species that achieve dominance. Earth has dozens, constantly competing. You evolved not just against the environment, but against other formidable predators. You're the survivors of an evolutionary battleground. I'm not sure how this affects our diplomatic status, Jenkins ventured. The Council has reached a conclusion, Zorvix said, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. Humans aren't what we thought. You're much more dangerous, but also much more valuable as allies. So our membership modified, not revoked, Zorvix clarified, with new protocols befitting your unique status. Which means, it means, Ambassador Jenkins, that the galaxy will sleep better knowing humans are on their side rather than against them. 6 months after the Serengeti incident, humanity's position in the Galactic Council had undergone a remarkable transformation. What began as diplomatic disaster had evolved into unexpected advantage. Ambassador Jenkins, welcome, announced Council Leader Pelnak as Jenkins entered the now familiar crystal chamber. We were just discussing the Rigelian border dispute. The Rigelians are reconsidering their position, added Zorvix, with a meaningful glance toward Jenkins. Your suggestion of sending human peacekeepers proved persuasive. Jenkins nodded diplomatically. No actual threats had been made. None were necessary. Simply mentioning that humans might take an interest in the situation had sent the Rigelians scrambling to negotiate. The Council's perception of humanity had calcified into something between respect and contained alarm. Earth's provisional membership had been modified with what the aliens called apex protocols, essentially treating humans like highly intelligent predators who needed special handling. Jenkins found it alternately amusing and frustrating. Human diplomats were now excluded from certain sensitive discussions where their intensity might disrupt consensus. Yet paradoxically, they were specifically requested for security negotiations, border disputes, and any situation requiring what Zorvix delicately called evolutionary perspective. The communications officer Rodriguez joined Jenkins at the council table, sliding over a data tablet. The Cultural Exchange Committee has some concerns, she whispered. Jenkins reviewed the report and suppressed a sigh. The latest directive required all human representatives to undergo predator awareness training before interacting with certain species. Additionally, a new regulation prohibited humans from displaying teeth while communicating with the more skittish council members. We've prepared the mandatory viewings as requested, announced Klib, who had ironically been promoted to chief human liaison due to their expertise in terrestrial psychology. The lights dimmed, and the same screen that had once shown lions hunting zebras now displayed a plant, a simple, green plant in a pot. For 30 minutes, the council members watched in what appeared to be rapt fascination as the plant existed. Occasionally, with the time-lapse photography, a leaf unfurled slightly. Magnificent, whispered an alien diplomat. Such peaceful development. Jenkins leaned toward Rodriguez. Are they seriously making us watch grass grow as some kind of sensitivity training? This, Klib announced proudly, is what most civilized species consider appropriate documentation. The gentle life cycle of photosynthetic organisms, with absolutely no violence. "There's another 6 hours of this," Rodriguez murmured, followed by a documentary called The Patient Mineral: Sedimentary Rocks Through the Ages. Jenkins stifled a laugh, which 3 nearby aliens mistook for a predatory growl and quickly changed seats. After the session, Zorvix approached Jenkins in the corridor. "A word, Ambassador?" They moved to a private alcove, where Zorvix's mandibles clicked in what Jenkins now recognized as their version of amusement. "The Council is adapting to human inclusion better than expected," Zorvix said, "though some species still request human-free zones in their living quarters." "And the plant documentaries?" Jenkins asked. "A compromise," Zorvix admitted. "Some members wanted humans to wear sensory dampeners. I suggested cultural exposure instead." Jenkins nodded. "And our revised status? The Security Council meets tomorrow. They're recommending human advisors for our most troubled sectors." Zorvix's exoskeleton shimmered slightly. "It seems the galaxy has found a use for species evolved in constant competition. If your perspective on conflict resolution is uniquely informed." As they parted ways, Jenkins reflected on humanity's strange new position in the cosmos. They had arrived hoping to be seen as civilized equals, only to be recognized as barely contained predators. Yet somehow that recognition had earned them more respect than any diplomatic platitudes ever could. Back on Earth, documentary producers were hurriedly developing new series focusing on Earth's gentler aspects, with working titles like Clouds, with The Silent Wanderers, and 1,000 Hours of Forest Stillness. Meanwhile, the Council had quietly doubled the defensive capabilities of their fleet, established human-specific protocols for all member worlds, and most tellingly begun referencing Earth in their internal communications as the planet where the apex predators decided to be nice. Jenkins couldn't decide if that was an insult or the highest compliment humanity had ever received. Probably both,